everybody. We are back with another Ramp Careers Daily Update. Today, I'm joined with both co-founders, Mitch and Manoj. Boys, how you doing?
Doing well, Danny. Nice to have you back.
Yes,
Doing
it's
good.
been a long Labor Day weekend, and I'm back in action. I'm not well rested, but I'm here and I'm ready to rock. The topic is how to deal with failure. Now, Mitch, I know you had a great framework for how to deal with failure. I'd love to kick it to you to better understand that framework.
Yeah, absolutely, Danny. I'll give you a little insight into how I think about it, and then would love to kick it to you guys, and we can just kind of brainstorm on some different options here. But the way I think about failure is in any situation where there is an outcome, is essentially only two real outcomes. It's either you win that outcome or you learn from it. So in my mind, there's no real lose. There's no way to fail. The only way you fail is if you give up or you stop trying and admit defeat completely. So you either win from that outcome or you learn from it. And what I mean by learn is you kind of digest the outcome and you take that learning forward so that when you go back up, so that when you go to swing again, you have a better shot or a higher percentage of winning the next time around. I think this can be applied to any situation, whether it's, cold calling for sales, whether it's interviewing, whether it's meeting your significant other at a bar, right? You either win or you learn. That's how I think about it. What do you guys think? Is that applicable? Do you think that a load of Zen BS?
You're very zen. You're very zen. No, it's not BS, man. Look, everybody goes through personal and professional failures, and it's not if you fail, it's how you bounce back. I think it was Dwayne Wade who came up with the tagline: "Fall down 7 times, get up 8." That's the credit to him and him alone on that one. But no, that it's really all about how you bounce back and how you wrap your head around the failure. And there's a few things you can do. I think the first is, you said, how are you learning? How are you growing from it? So one portion of that is assessing where the accountability lies and how much you should attribute to yourself and how much of that failure you can control. Now, I do believe in taking extreme accountability over your own actions, but there are some things at the same time that you can't control. Some economic factors that may be facing the industry. If you lost a job for that type of reason, you can't exactly control things like the weather. You can't control what other people are going to say, but you can control how you prep for things, what you say, how you say it, the attitude you bring to the table. So those are things that I look at when I'm really assessing a failure. Like, did I really bring my A game on all of the things that I could control? What do you think, Manoj?
I think all of that is right. Mitch, to your point, the lens that you're looking through failure comes from what I think is background in athletics and a background in competing, right? You've given yourself enough opportunities to compete. And with any competition comes successes and failures. And I do think that it's something that you get better at the more you do it, right? If you only give yourself few opportunities to compete, you're only going to give yourself fewer opportunities to not succeed or fail. And it's a learned muscle like everything else. I don't think that we are taught to deal with failure very much. I think society, we're conditioned to quick wins, quick enjoyment, that you don't have that forum. And sales, unfortunately, is a numbers game a little bit, right? I mean, you could qualify and target and prospect the best of your abilities, but there will still be folks that will say no for reasons in your control, outside of your control. So it's just giving yourself enough opportunities to fail, and it's going to suck. I mean, I think the one thing is that we don't want to diminish the way you feel right away, and it might not be fun for a day or two, but it's a fleeting thought like anything else. If you're ecstatic or happy about something, that too is fleeting, right? I mean, how long does your happiness last? A day or two, and then it's old, right? And so having at least that frame of reference, knowing that even if it sucks today, and even if I failed because I have not done my best, right? So I haven't failed because of things I can't control. I failed because of something that I didn't do. It's still okay as long as you recognize it, you choose to not do it in the future, and you know that it's going to be fleeting and it'll pass. So I think it's all of those points are valid. My only general thought on this is I think it's okay to fail, and I strongly encourage, and I'm a fan of giving yourself enough opportunities to fail and to succeed. So just swinging at things enough times. I think that's something that you simply have to do, because otherwise you're never going to go out of your comfort zone. You'll never even realize what true success is.
Yeah, no, that's beautifully put, right? You really start living at the edge of your comfort zone, and that's where you figure out, what you want to do with your life. I think one thing to consider with all this is any of these type of frameworks, any type of mindsets, try to think about them prior to going into the opportunity, right? It's much easier to deal with that failure or that outcome, we'll call it outcome, if you have the mindset prior to that. It's hard in the moment, right? We've all been there, right? Sitting there, you're hoping for the best. It doesn't go your way. It's really hard to pull yourself out of the dump in the moment there. But if you go in with the framework ahead of time of, hey, I can't lose here as long as I learn, or can't lose here as long as I keep swinging, or I can't learn here as long as I get out of my comfort zone and try something new, then that outcome, win or lose or fail or learn, is gonna be a lot easier to digest.
Yeah, I think that's right. And a good way to look at it, and I think we've covered a lot on the general framework. So let's transition more to sales or interviewing, because both of these avenues provide somewhat rapid feedback loops to failure. And frankly, in sales, you can fail 95% of the time and still be a top performing sales executive. So do you have any thoughts on failure within those realms and how to look at failure within either interviewing or sales or both?
I'll chime in kind of from the SDR perspective first. You're going to fail daily, cold calling and cold emailing. Or if you're an outside sales rep, the equivalent would be knocking on the doors, right, of people. And that can be scary or intimidating when you're starting out. But you have to realize that, look, there's always another prospect. There's always another chance here. And as long as you control, like you said, Danny, control what you can control. That's my delivery. That's my tone of voice. That's my voicemail that I leave. That's the email that I send. Control your prep, your execution. The rest is up to the prospect, right? So if you're doing those things and you keep swinging, you're gonna get success, right? But no, going into it, it's a numbers game, and that's what sales is, right? So the best email reply rates from any company are going to be 10, 15%. That's like the top of the top, right? Most companies out there, you'll see 5 to 6% positive reply rate. That means you're failing over 90% of the time, but that's the game we're playing, right? And you only need a couple wins to make your career. So I think going in with those mindsets, or kind of going in with those expectations ahead of time, can make some of the negative responses a lot easier.
I can talk a little bit about failure with interviews, Danny. I think I've pivoted so many times professionally, and I've had varying job roles, and with that comes tons and tons of interviews. At this point, my interview rates, and I was sharing this with one of our fellows today, is that's just been the map. Like, it's 50 to 60 applications. I might get 5 actual interviews and 2 offers, and that has not changed whether I was applying for an entry-level CPA job back in 2008 all the way to when I was applying for some very senior C-level roles at fast-growing companies. That math has not changed, and I don't even know if it's a function of, and this is with me kind of targeting and not spraying and paying. This is with me kind of being thoughtful about, these are companies that I think would be a good fit. Here's a little bit of personalization that I've done, and I've gone as far as kind of building decks and doing free work for companies that I want to work. Even with all of that, that's been the statistic, and it's a function of 2 things: functional competition, for sure. I mean, I'm not the only person that's out there looking for a job, and so you can't necessarily account for competition. There may very well be people that are significantly better than me at a certain day of the week, at a certain moment. There's some interpersonal dynamic. So I think it's important to kind of remember that you have to, again, play a bit of a numbers game, and it's likely that you'll fail. To the best of your abilities, you'll get a pulse, and you can ask for feedback. It's a bit of a crapshoot because during the recruiting process, you may not really get direct feedback from companies that don't hire you. You might get generalized feedback. It might be difficult to get very direct feedback, but over time, as you continue to have a lot of interviews, you will have a baseline pulse of, here's how a good interview looks like, and here's how a not so good interview looks like, right? It took me a long time to figure that out, because in the beginning I was like, oh, why did I not get a job? Everything went well, right? Then the more interviews you have, and then you can kind of map and say, all right, it makes sense. Like, these are the things that I did. Here's how I felt. Here's how they reacted. And here's why I got an offer. Here are other interviews where they were polite, but didn't really make a mark. You'll tend to get a pulse of it. So again, my point is, play the game often enough. Like, literally, you're never going to figure out what you're good at, what you're not good at, how to improve if you only make 10 sales calls or go through 5 interviews. Like, how the hell will you know how to succeed and what your failure markers are? So again, tying it all back, when it comes to interviewing, recruiting, it's okay. Like, practice. Get in front of as many people as you can, and only then can you find common themes in why you failed and how you can get better at it.
Yeah, those are great points. I think both of these tie back to what we were all speaking about in the beginning, where it's win or learn. It's control the controllables. It's look at who's accountable and for what, both on the sales side and the interviewing side. So, just to recap a bit, on the sales side, you can control your pitch. You can control how many people you reach out to. On the interview side, I think one of the biggest mistakes I see is folks come into our program and say, hey, I've been interviewing at so many different places. I've just heard no so many times. I'm hungry. I'm ready to go. What happened? And we ask, how many places have you interviewed for? And they say, well, 3 or 4. Sometimes it's just not enough. The competition is steep. And though you may be interested interested in very narrow amounts of companies, just try to expand your horizon a little bit and think, what am I actually passionate about? There's probably 20, 30, even 40, 50, 100 companies in that passion that you can really expand that top of funnel. That's what I'm talking about with controlling the controllables. Did you really do everything that you could have, yourself the best shot to win? Or are you just not optimizing for success? You're optimizing for failure there. And I think that's something you need to look at quite aggressively when you're going through an exercise of how do you deal with personal and professional failure. We've done a good job of chatting about some high level strategies and some tactics here on how to deal with personal and professional failure. We'll be back tomorrow with another version of the Ramp Careers Daily Update. For Mitch, Manoj, and myself, we will see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.
You guys.
See ya.